Auditioning for Cirque du Soleil is no walk in the park. I'm sure, as you could imagine, it involves incredible tests of strength, artistry, flexibility, acting and creativity, and then some. I'm going to share with you my experience auditioning for Cirque du Soleil. Before I get into this crazy experience, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to this video. It helps me out a lot, get to more viewers like you, and keeps the videos coming your way. I had the honor of performing with Cirque du Soleil's Love Show for 3 years as a solo straps aerialist. I mean, dream come true. Now, I didn't just email them asking for the part. No, long journey to get there. I even had to audition for the company and then years later do a specific audition for that role, but that's another story. Cirque du Soleil a lot of times will hold auditions for what they call their artist database. This is just kind of like a general call to hire people into their database that then when roles open up, they can pull from. So you're already approved to their level, and then it just becomes specifically what role you fit best for. In 2013, I was on the national tour of Rock of Ages, where I wasn't doing any aerial acrobatics, but definitely missed it. I had seen that Cirque du Soleil had posted for an audition that was an invite-only call. This meant that you had to submit with some kind of video or reel to then be invited to then audition. I know, I told you, no walk in the park. I submitted my, at the time, aerial demo reel, which I look back at now and think, oh my gosh, how much I've grown, and look at my little baby Gelsey self go. But again, at the time, that was my highlight reel. That was the best I had. And to my absolute shock, from that video, they invited me to come to Vegas for an in-person 2-day audition. So leading up to that, when I finished the tour of Rock of Ages, I think I had about 2 weeks, I trained as hard as I possibly could. I was up on my hoop day in and day out, perfecting the act that I was going to take and perform for them. Now for this particular audition, it was at the Zarkana Theater at the Aria Casino and Hotel, which no longer exists. They tore that theater down for a convention space. So sad. And they were asking everybody to come and present an act. So I decided to do my act on the aerial hoop, or the lyra. I had also done aerial silks. Those were kind of my two specialties, but I just felt like I was stronger and more confident with my hoop skills. This is actually a rehearsal video of me going through the act probably days before I drove to Vegas to then perform this for the audition. I drove into Vegas, drove for the call time at the Aria Hotel and Casino, parked in the guest parking, and to say that I was nervous, scared, or that my heart was throbbing is an understatement. I think this might have been the most nervous and anxious I'd felt for any audition I'd done so far at this point. I mean, this was like, for me, the big game. Cirque du Soleil was my ultimate dream, and I still kind of had that extreme imposter syndrome of like, there's no way I'm anywhere near the league to be in this or ready for this. But in true fashion, and like I always do, I was diving in head first because what do you got to lose? So I popped open my trunk. I had a giant aerial hoop that I had to carry through the casino, past all the restaurants to the entrance of the theater where I checked in. We all were sat down in rows and waited. This is where the casting team came in for Cirque. They introduced themselves, probably gave some motivational spiel about like, don't be nervous, do your best, you know, as they always do, but it never helps because we're all always nervous. And then one at a time, we had to go up on stage and do our act, not only in front of the casting panel, but in front of all of our peers who were auditioning aside from us, which honestly, sometimes that's more terrifying than the actual casting people behind the table. Majority of the acts at this audition were aerialists, but there's a couple ground acts. I want to say there was like one juggler, maybe a contortionist, and then there was definitely a roller skating duo. And then outside of that, everyone else was in the air. It was a lot of fun to sit and watch everybody's performance and see what everyone was bringing and just like the awe of everyone's skill set and artistry. But it definitely makes you nervous the more you're watching all these incredible people go. You start second guessing your act, your capability, your talent. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't be here, etc. Unfortunately, I was not one of the first people to go. So I sat there for quite a while with this anxious buildup of like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. But at that point, there's nothing you can do. So finally, they call my number, call my name to go up and preset. There was an act in front of me. And when it was my time, I went out on this giant stage. A point came down, I hook in my hoop, kind of set a decent height that I could get on and off the hoop with the rigger. And then it was time to press play and give it everything I got. I can tell you that I had one of those kind of blackout moments. It was the most surreal experience I'd ever had. I mean, I was on an actual Cirque du Soleil stage on my aerial hoop performing. I mean, that alone was something I never saw myself doing or thought I would ever get to. But you know, dreams come true. Because it's a weird sensation when you're in the air, especially the whole time I'm on the hoop, it spins. So you kind of get this like bubble feeling where, because everything's blurred out, I kind of have this bubble that I'm like, I'm here and I'm with myself. But it was even more exaggerated in the space because it was such a huge theater. The vast audience, just pitch black, and then the stage itself had to go up 100 feet and just insane. And so it just really exacerbated that feeling of like being in the vast nothingness is the best way I could explain it. So I gave everything I possibly could at that audition. And then you sit and wait while the rest of the people go. And there is a relief once you do your act because you're like, okay, I did my best. There's nothing more to do. But then there's also another anxiety stress level coming up. Now you're waiting for them to call out who made the cut for the next day and who didn't. So you're like, oh God. Finally, it comes to the end of that day. They say, thank you so much for coming, blah, blah, blah. And then they call out a list of numbers. These are the people that are invited back the following day. And oh my gosh, when they called my number, I almost could have cried. It was such a relief and excitement, but it also was just kind of this like, shit, here we go. Because we had a whole next day full of auditioning, and this one was going to be the tough one. The first day was just doing our act. Day 2, we were given a location of a gymnastics gym to meet early in the morning, and they said, be ready to work. Our morning probably started around 9 a.m. I signed in, got our numbers, pinned them on, and we got to conditioning immediately. They wanted to see where our strength levels were at, of course. And when I say strength, I'm talking about one at a time climbing rope with no legs in a perfect straddle all the way up and slowly all the way down. I want to say for the boys, when they got to the very bottom, they said, don't touch, go all the way back up again. And they did that to a few girls as well. I don't recall them doing that to me. I'm gonna say I was pretty strong, so I may have proven my strength there. And then another exercise I remember them doing was at one of the bars. We had to jump up, do 10 pull-ups, jump down, do 10 burpees, and then jump back up and do 10 perfect leg raises. And this was obviously to see where our strength levels were at, but also endurance. Again, luckily, this was my style of training that I loved doing, so I was in very good shape and I was ready for anything. Keep in mind, this was an aerialist audition, so they're focusing massively on our upper body and core strength. I definitely know there was some kind of ab V sit-up thing we had to do. I just can't recall exact specifics. After this point, they then made another cut. So everyone that wasn't strong enough to their standard, thank you so much, time to leave. For the rest of us, now was our time to show our acting and dancing and movement skills. Our first exercise I was so happy to have because they called us out to the floor 3 at a time. No warning, nothing, and just kind of said, okay, I'm going to play music, dance, move. If you're not a dancer, it's okay. Stylistically move to how the music makes you feel. I thought, piece of cake, because I am a dancer. Some of the people were dancers and some acrobatics aren't, but they're great movers. So I got kind of a more slow, classical type sound, which from a ballet background, this was a piece of cake for me. I love dancing, so I was able to show kind of my passion through that. The next exercise after that was really interesting, where they kind of start screwing with you, if you will. They put us into multiple groups. They kind of wanted to see how we work well with other artists. So they gave us each an emotion. I want to say, I honestly can't remember what my emotion was. I think it was either like snobbery or it was something along those lines, I remember. And then they gave each group a body part. Now this I do remember. We were elbow, and they said you have to show a little skit, movement, acting, silent piece that demonstrates the emotion, but you must highlight and lead with that body part. Like, not the actual, but remember, it's Cirque du Soleil, it's weird. So I do remember getting paired in a group that was a little difficult. There was definitely one of the guys that was headstrong and felt like his way was right, and everyone else that had an idea was not right and we should all do what he wanted. Not really a team player in my opinion. And honestly, it was one of those things that we tried to go our own way and he would just take over and do whatever he wanted. So it was almost best to just do what he wanted. I remember our group kind of falling apart during the performance because of this reason. I think we had somewhat of a plan and then he just kind of did the thing that he thought was best, which is not great. But we went out, we somehow did a group thing with our elbows. So the group little parts were interesting, yeah. I want to say this is where they made another cut. I think they sent some more people home after the movement and acting portion. And then we did have one final section of the audition, and this was flexibility. We've got our artistry, character, strength. Now they want to see how far we bend. Not all aerialists are going to be super bendy. Like, people just assume because I was in Cirque du Soleil that I'm hyper flexible. I will say my legs are very bendy, and if I practiced, I could get my feet over my head. Okay, that's kind of bendy. But for me, I'm not very bendy because I've worked with contortionists who literally can fold themselves in half and stick their own heads up their butts if they tried. But they need to see that we have some kind of range of motion. Obviously, a lot of the times the men are going to be less flexible than the women because they're doing more power strength moves, where we are going to be doing more of the flowy, bendy moves. I eventually incorporated a style myself that had my flexibility with my legs, but because my back wasn't very flexible, I overcompensated that part with strength. And as a female, I got very strong. I mean, by the time I left Cirque, I was doing things that most women don't, which was something I'm proud of, but I was very big. So they kind of just lined us up, and I think each casting director took a couple people in their group, and they would say, okay, do a back bend, do bridge, straighten your legs. They want to see your shoulder range of motion. They want to see kind of your back range of motion. And then it was splits time. And to do the splits, you can kind of cheat by opening your hips. So they really wanted these true shapes, arms up, and then rotate into middle splits, your other leg. And then the one part that my legs aren't very good at is a side straddle. But I might have stretched so much at that time that I knew how to force it down. It's something I learned as a child, how to be on the verge of tears and be in so much pain, but to get your legs down where they need to be. And that's how I kind of gained my flexibility. I was not naturally flexible at all. People always ask me that, and they think, oh, you must have just been so naturally flexible. And I'm like, oh, let me tell you a story about how every time I watched TV, I was stretching, and I would push myself to, again, tears. I'm sure some teachers helped here or there, but after they tested our flexibility, they again made one final cut where they called the final numbers, dismissed everyone else. And for those of us remaining, they said, congratulations, you are officially in the Cirque du Soleil artist database. I mean, all of us were almost to tears. The hard work we all put in leading up to this audition, we can't express, literal, again, blood, sweat, and tears. So there was just this camaraderie, amazing feeling of accomplishment. And those were two really long, physically hard but emotionally draining days that we just went through. So to finish it with this, did it, was an incredible feeling. Now, at this point, yes, we were in the database, but that was not guaranteed a job, and there was many more audition videos in my future that I had to send in. But it still was a moment I was so proud of myself, probably one of the most proudest moments I've had in my career and in my life. And to know that it was only just the beginning, wow. Stick around, make sure to keep an eye out. I will be doing videos on those specific audition videos that they had me submit for future specific shows and roles. But this was my general first audition for Cirque du Soleil that got me into their database and got my name on their list. Thank you so much for watching. Again, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any more content coming your way. Bye!